A G7 summit unlike any before has just ended in complete collapse. All because one world leader had the audacity to say no to Donald Trump. That leader. Canada's own Prime Minister, Mark Carney. Behind closed doors, in a room filled with the world's most powerful figures, Canada did what no one else dared to do, call Trump's bluff. And what followed? Leaked documents, stormed-out meetings, and an international fallout that could permanently fracture the Western alliance. Stay with us, because what you're about to hear isn't just diplomacy. It's drama. It's power. And it's Canada's biggest geopolitical moment in decades. The 2025 G7 summit, hosted in Alberta, was supposed to be symbolic. A new Canadian Prime Minister. A returning Donald Trump. A world facing economic uncertainty, rising tensions with China, and climate disasters unfolding faster than leaders can respond. But no one, not even the most seasoned diplomats, predicted this would turn into an outright showdown. Trump landed in Alberta with fire in his eyes and ultimatums in his pocket. He came demanding Canada drop environmental protections. He wanted full access to Canadian markets for American oil, autos, and pharmaceuticals. And he demanded that NATO member nations, especially Canada, increase their military contributions immediately, or risk losing U.S. support entirely. Inside sources say Trump warned, quote, "There's no alliance if there's no loyalty." But Canada didn't bow. In fact, Mark Carney stood up. In a now-leaked portion of a private meeting, Carney looked Trump dead in the eye and said this: "Alliances built on threats are not alliances at all. Canada negotiates as an equal, not as a subordinate." The room fell silent. European leaders reportedly exchanged glances. One diplomat described the atmosphere as radioactive. And Trump? He was furious. What followed was absolute diplomatic breakdown. Trump's team canceled a joint press conference. The U.S. delegation walked out of 2 scheduled meetings. French and German officials convened privately, without American representation. And the draft of the final G7 communiqué. Torn up and shelved. A European aide described the summit's final hours as Cold War energy, but in suits and luxury hotels. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Sources inside the summit say that after the American delegation stormed out, Carney, yes, Canada's Prime Minister, convened a secret closed-door session with 5 of the remaining leaders, France, Germany, Japan, Italy, and the UK. In that room, Carney reportedly made a quiet but seismic proposal. If the United States continues to act unilaterally, then it's time the rest of us start preparing for a Plan B. Boom. That's not just bold. That's historic. Maple Flash has reviewed reports from 2 diplomatic insiders and multiple leaks to international media outlets. What's emerging is this. Canada led the charge to form a contingency trade framework, one that would allow G7 countries to work around American obstruction. Germany and France are already drafting outlines for mutual supply chain agreements. Japan reportedly offered tech-sharing proposals, minus U.S. approval. And Canada? Carney suggested a new climate financing model, without American dollars. This wasn't just defiance. It was leadership. Canadian leadership. Back on the public stage, the optics told their own story. When the final photo op happened, Trump stood visibly separated from the others. Carney, meanwhile, was seen deep in conversation with Macron and Scholz. Even the Japanese PM was photographed handing Carney a briefing folder, an unusual move usually reserved for co-leads. Every camera angle, every whisper, every smirk told the same story. Trump was isolated. Canada was rising. Around the world, reactions poured in. CNN called it the day the G7 cracked. BBC, Canada's quiet power move. Fox News. They labeled Carney a globalist pawn and accused Canada of betrayal. But inside Canada, it was a different tone entirely. Hashtag Carney clapback trended #1. Patriotic tweets flooded the timeline. Finally, a PM with backbone. Carney did what Trudeau never dared. Canada stood tall today. Let's not underestimate what happened here. This summit marked the first serious power split in the Western alliance since World War II. The US is no longer the unchallenged center. And in that vacuum, Canada, a country long seen as the diplomatic middle child, just stepped up to the podium. And Carney? He didn't just survive his first G7. He defined it. This changes how Canada is perceived. Not as a follower, but as a force. So what's next? Will the G7 survive this fracture? Will Trump retaliate economically? Or have we just witnessed the beginning of a new global balance, one where Canada finally stops apologizing and starts leading? Whatever happens next, the world won't forget what happened in Alberta. And neither should we. Because when the doors closed, Canada didn't back down. It stood up. And the G7 collapsed. This is Maple Flash, bringing you the truth behind the spin and the drama behind the diplomacy. Like, share, and subscribe, because Canadian politics, it just got global. Until next time, stay bold, stay informed, and stay Canadian.